Okay, are you ready, Djurdjija?
Yep, I'm ready. Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone, and thanks. Welcome, Djurdjija, for joining this session today. Really do appreciate that.
Yeah,
Uh,
thank you for having
today's
me.
gonna, yeah, today's gonna be a very interesting day. Because of what we're going to be discussing today. It is a topic that is very interesting to me. It is a topic that is very interesting, I'm sure, also to many people who are on this webinar today. It is going to hopefully be a very great learning experience for us, and also add very tangible value to everyone here beyond just the buzzwords. Okay.
Yeah, I
So
hope so
without
as well.
further ado, yeah. So without further ado, I'm just going to get started. We're going to learn about the enterprise architecture, starting with the enterprise architecture, what it is, and how it can help the organization. So the first question I have for you today is, Jadija, is what is enterprise architecture, and why has it become such an essential discipline for modern organizations?
Yeah, I think that's the most important question of all, especially that the world today has become very technical, right? I think we can all agree to that. And as such, it's developed a everyday language that is full of buzzwords and abbreviations that we don't have any idea what they are, and they often sound much more complex and complicated than the ideas behind them actually are. And I guess for some people, this is still enterprise architecture or EA. But in my opinion, EA really doesn't have to be anything mysterious or complicated. In fact, I believe that if done right, enterprise architecture can actually help reduce complexity. But what it so I've mentioned the technical world. Don't get me wrong, EA is not really just about technology or IT. It is in a way, but more so that it aligns the IT infrastructure with business goals and with business capabilities. And it's not just about that, it's about general alignment. So you learn how to align your capabilities to your goals, and then you learn how to align the supporting infrastructure behind all those capabilities. And to make this a bit more understandable, people often use a metaphor that is very simple, and I think it works good. That's why it's often mentioned. It's a city metaphor. Now, imagine your organization is a city. A city has buildings, roads, utilities, neighborhoods, and services, right? And all of these need to work together. So when a city grows without any planning, you get traffic jams, mismatched buildings, utilities that don't connect, and services that start to fail. So it becomes very messy and expensive to maintain, right? And that's why we have city planning offices and public services, right? And enterprise architecture is what city planning offices and public services are to organizations. So imagine any organization that have many systems, right? Those systems can overlap. They have many data that can get stuck in silos. Various departments use tools that don't work together necessarily, and the technology that's ever growing becomes harder and more costly to support. And so you have everything there, but nothing actually fits the way it should, and nothing works together as it should. Well, EA here acts as the city planning office. So it looks at the whole landscape, not just the technology, excuse me, but also goals and capabilities, and helps the organizations grow in a coordinated way. So in this metaphor, business areas become planned districts instead of random clusters. Applications become purposeful buildings instead of redundant structures. Shared platforms and integrations become the roads and utilities that really connect everything. And what EA also does is creates rules. It sets the rules for the organization. And think of it as the organization's version of building codes. So it makes sure that the new solutions are safe, compatible, and aligned with the bigger picture. And it works with IT operations, which is in this metaphor, the city's maintenance crew, to keep everything running smoothly. So I hope with the help of this metaphor, you can imagine how EA has become such an essential discipline for modern organizations as they deal with rapidly changing markets, constant digital transformation, growing complexity, and, as I mentioned, ever-growing set of technologies. I hope this answers your question, David.
Yes, it does indeed. And thanks very much for that very helpful analogy that EA acts as a city planning office. That's very, very helpful. Helps to helps to, when a city grows without planning, everything is very chaotic. You get traffic jams, mismatched buildings could even potentially collapse, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, that's
without the appropriate infrastructure, of course.
Yeah. Now, and oftentimes organizations would ignore these things until the last minute, right?
Yep.
Where it's going to cost 5 times more to fix, as opposed to taking action when it needs to be taken. So
exactly, because all the knowledge is hidden.
So the second question I've got for you, Djurdjija, today is, how does enterprise architecture help organizations align their business strategy with their technology landscape in a practical and measurable way?
Yeah, so the answer here is quite simple. What EA does is it creates a shared picture. And when I say a shared picture, I mean it visualizes to everybody how the business works, what it needs, and what supports the business. And from that shared picture, it becomes possible to make coordinated, informed, and measurable decisions so that, as you mentioned, David, in the end, a building doesn't collapse, or that we don't have traffic jams or mismatched buildings or whatever we've mentioned. And to do this, to create this shared picture, we usually use tools like capability maps or high-level process maps. And they are very successful because they represent something that every stakeholder, whether from business, IT operations, or leadership, any sectors really, everybody can easily understand and agree on this visualization. And what a capability map actually is simply a visualization of everything that your organization does or needs to do in order to fulfill its business goals. So in order to operate and succeed in what they want to do. So think of it as writing down all your main abilities as a business. So what are your main capabilities? It could be things like manage customers, deliver products, handle finances, develop new offerings, and so on and so forth. And then you take those capabilities and organize them in a clear, logical structure. This is often done by mapping them into corresponding value streams. And so this way, it becomes a big picture view that shows what the organization must be capable of. And it doesn't yet show the details of how things are done, but it at least gets everybody at the same page. And this establishing this common ground is not always an easy task. And this is because agreeing on organization's core capabilities can spark a lot of discussion between the departments, of course, because each of them use different terminology. And not only that, but they have different priorities, right? They also see the business from different angles. So business leadership people might see it from one, but the IT people might see it from the other. And that's why this can be a very hard task. But once you do have this capability map in place, once you really create it, something very important happens. And that's that everybody starts speaking the same language. And this enables planning to become clearer, misunderstandings to drop, and decisions to move faster because they're grounded in a shared understanding of how the business works. And while this is very powerful for the beginning, so having a shared understanding of how things work, what helps things work, the capability map is only the beginning. So the real value comes when you look beneath each of those capabilities and ask, how do they actually work? What makes those capabilities work? Because no capability exists in isolation, right? Each of them is brought to life by things like processes. Those processes are carried out by people. People use various data sources. They're supported by applications, and finally enabled by technology. And when you explore these layers behind behind the capability map, you then begin to see the whole system that keeps the business running, including, of course, the gaps, redundancies, and weak spots, which you can imagine why it's important for decision-making processes. And this is where this alignment becomes practical and measurable. So first of all, you need to see all your capabilities, and then everything that enables it. And this immediately highlights where the organization needs to improve, where to strengthen, modernize, invest. And more than that, you go from conversations like, oh, we should innovate more, or, oh, we need better data. This is very broad, like it's very general. Instead, you get concrete and traceable insights, such as this capability is strategically critical. However, the applications that support it are outdated. So we need to do something about it. We need to update our application portfolio, right? Or this capability is high in priority, but its processes are too manual, therefore very slow. So we need to automate processes. So this decision-making process becomes much more transparent. And this is how EA basically turns strategy into action.
Okay, thanks so much for that. Thanks so much for all of that. Really, really helpful. Really do appreciate that. So now on to, this is actually my favorite question, right? It's my favorite question because before any IT expenditure is approved, there's got to be, oftentimes there's got to be like a business case made for it, a business justification made for it, and then the real benefits, the real ROI that is going to be gotten from it. The business managers, the decision makers aren't going to approve an expense until and unless they can see proven value, proven tangible value before they put their signature on that. So that leads me on then to the next question. Many leaders ask about the real benefits of enterprise architecture. From your experience, what are the top value drivers that enterprise architecture brings to organizations? That you can say that you can say, well, this thing is going to cost us $100 based on all of these value that I can see on there. I'm going to go ahead and put my signature on it so that the procurement team can go ahead and buy it.
So from our experience, some of the top value drivers come down to some things that most of the organizations, no matter the industry or the size of organizations, struggle with. And that's usually the lack of clarity, the mentioned ever-growing complexity, and decisions being made on assumptions rather than facts. This is very important. I'll come to this. So we've already explained that how EA creates clarity. So it creates a common knowledge across the entire organization. So how the strategy, processes, data, and technology come together, and how EA brings all these layers together in one picture. So first of all, it helps everybody understand how the organization really works, not just having their own version of how things work, but finally they have a common and shared understanding. So people begin to see how strategy connects to operations, how processes rely on data, which applications support which activities, and where the technology landscape is helping or maybe even slowing things down. And once you have this clarity is very important, because once you have this clarity, you are able to make better decisions, right? As I've mentioned before, you go from very broad discussions that are general and true for all businesses to really practical insights. So you don't have decisions that happen in silos anymore, right? They are not based on assumptions anymore. They're not based on personal opinions, but on real, tangible insights. So everybody can understand. If you imagine a capability that operates by a process that's relying on an outdated application, here you get the exact answers. Okay, this application needs to improve. It's either outdated, or it relies on useless interfaces, or it relies on outdated technology, or whatever. So you can make more informed decisions where it is exactly that you need to invest. So this brings me to better investment planning. So EA drives smart investments by connecting strategy with capabilities and technology that's behind it. So you know exactly where your money should go and where it will make the biggest impact, right? Because if you have outdated applications supporting more of your capabilities, it's better to invest in one that's more strategically important for your goals than the one that is just a supporting capability or something like that. And to know this, it's important to reduce complexity, right? Which is something that EA also does. So it maps everything. It maps each of the capabilities so that you can understand which of them is strategically important, which is not, which you should focus on, which not, and so on and so forth. So not to make this long, in simple terms, EA creates clarity. This is the beginning of everything. So it creates clarity, which brings to better decisions. Better decisions, of course, lead to smarter investments, and that, in terms, of course, brings to better outcomes.
That is very, 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 very nicely put, Djurdjija. This is a very great learning session. I'm learning so much today.
Glad to hear that.
Because it's a very interesting question. What exactly, beyond the buzzwords, what intangible terms can I get from enterprise architecture? And I love the way you've just put this, that enterprise architecture creates clarity. Clarity leads to better decision making. Better decision making leads to more targeted and more informed investments. And then obviously more investments lead to higher return on investment, right? So the justification,
exactly.
So if I was someone, I would certainly just, I would approve getting an enterprise architecture software for my company, based on, because I want to see the value. I want to see what it can do for me beyond just the buzzwords. Okay. So the next question today is, what are the most common challenges companies face when establishing an enterprise architecture practice, and how can they overcome them?
This is something that I've mentioned a lot of times, but the main problem with today's organizations is that no single person can know everything that goes on in an organization, right? No matter how knowledgeable they are, no matter their position, their department, nobody can know everything, because there are a lot of business processes and technology systems and data and applications that contribute to your everyday life, organization's life, really. And so I can't stress this enough, but EA provides a common ground in a shared space where people can find all the information they need and also contribute to company success with their own knowledge and experience. So it's about creating a big picture, a clear picture that everybody can understand, rather than leaving it scattered across silos, right? But sometimes things are very complicated and complex. They become very complex with the ever-growing technology, and not just technology, but all the other mentioned artifacts. And in such cases, we really do need things like standards, like TOGAF or Archimate, because these frameworks are excellent for structuring and documenting architectural information. However, the challenge here is that they are primarily designed for experts. And the reality is that not everybody in the organization has or should have that level of expertise, right? And we've mentioned how important and how crucial it is that everybody participates in an organization's success. And this is why we needed a shift in this approach. So the EA needed something that would move of these complex, so still use the standards for, I'm sorry, seems to be a power outage.
That's okay. That's fine. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I guess you can still see me.
No, it's amazing. It's good to have two pictures of you, one in the light and one in the bit of a gray scale. So this is actually amazing.
Yeah, things happen. See, so some things you can't really predict as this, but you can predict other stuff with EA. So this actually goes hand in hand with what I was just saying. And yeah, so I was saying how not everybody, of course, has the knowledge, because things get to be very complicated and complex, and this is where we can use standards such as Archimate or TOGAF. But since really not everybody in the organization has some EA knowledge or Archimate level of expertise, we needed a shift in this approach. So still leave the standards for where they're really needed and for the experts, but we really wanted to make EA democratized. We like to say we are democratizing EA with our new features. And to support this, our solution for this was ADOIT's workspaces. And the workspaces were developed as for user-centric services. And what this means is that they help fulfill, here we are again, they help fulfill one particular business need, such as application investment planning or strategic road mapping. I will show this in a tool demo. But so, yeah, we've, I think it's important to have the standards, but also features that allow people to contribute, even if they don't have any knowledge of the standards or EA itself whatsoever. So, yeah, by making EA accessible and practical, we believe that organizations can deliver real value while still fostering a culture of shared understanding and collaboration. And over time, this approach can help not only solve the immediate business challenges that I've mentioned, like application investment planning or strategic road mapping, but it can also strengthen the overall architecture practice, making it more resilient and effective.
So I do like the point about democratization, how the feature helps to democratize, enterprise architecture, right? So you don't have to be an expert to be included. So
exactly, yeah, because we believe that everybody can really contribute to an organization's success, no matter their knowledge, their knowledge of EA, their other knowledge that they've gathered in the organization in their everyday business life is what matters and what can help make EA work better.
Exactly. No, that's a really great point. So that democratization is something that is really important, right? Because what if the expert is on leave, right? Are we going to stop the enterprise architecture work because the one or two experts are on leave, right? But if the whole thing is democratized and everyone is included, that also ensures business continuity.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's great. So sorry, I hope I'm not grilling you this
no.
today.
No, of course not.
Okay.
All very important questions.
So the next question I've got is, enterprise architecture tools play a critical role in enabling architecture teams. What features or capabilities should organizations look for when choosing an enterprise architecture platform?
Well, when it comes to EA, the tools that you use can make a huge difference in how effective your architecture team is and how successful your enterprise architecture can be. Because a good EA platform does more than just, various visualizations like diagrams and stuff like that. Of course, they're important as well, but it's not just that. It's more about allowing EA to become a single source of truth, right? Where everything is stored. And this allows for collaboration, decision-making, and business impact. So that's why it's very important to choose well. So first of all, I'd say a tool that creates a single source of truth and this common understanding and shared knowledge that I've talked so much about. Then secondly, I still believe that standard support is essential because yes, everybody should contribute, but of course we should also have experts that can use these standards can be very helpful and can help really make sense of all the stored information and all the hidden information. And for instance, Archimate provides a common language for describing architecture across business, application, and technology layers. And having an EA tool that natively supports these standards helps ensure consistency. Of course, because everybody uses the same language, it makes it easier to communicate across teams because everybody knows what exactly was it that you were trying to show with this standard. And this reduces, of course, the risks of miscommunication. So yeah, even if not everybody on the team is an expert, the tool should still make it straightforward to use and interpret these standards. I've mentioned earlier the reports and visualizations. They are a must-have. I was just saying that they are not the only thing that you need, but Of course, they're a must-have because EA is all about understanding complexity and making it actionable. And this is mostly done by visualizations, right? With diagrams that show various information in one single view. So whether it's a heat map or application map or a roadmap of planned initiatives, I think it's very useful. And then, well, I've also mentioned capability maps as a starting point. So you see why this should be important. And finally, I've mentioned this shift into in the approach of EA, where we want to make EA for everybody, really. So having collaborative features for non-experts like workspaces is also becoming increasingly important, because the information that people with no EA expertise can offer is very important and can bring very important as well. It can lead to very good decisions, so to say. And so all of these features can make EA very practical and accessible, right, for everybody. So yeah, those are some of the standards, the visualizations, the collaborative features. Those are some of the insights. Having a single source of truth. Those would be the most critical features that one needs.
Okay, so from the conversation we've had so far, and also from my knowledge of, from my own knowledge, I have the understanding that this tool can work across any vertical, across any industry.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, really, no matter the industry or no matter the size of the organization, as I mentioned. Yeah.
Cool. So the next question I've got for you today is, ADOIT has been recognized as a leader for 5 consecutive years in the Gartner Magic Quadrant.
Very proud of that.
Yeah, so for it to have been leading for 5, not just 5 years, but for 5 consecutive years, yeah, that is something it's doing differently. So what differentiates ADOIT from other EA tools in the market, Djurdjija?
Yeah, well, thank you for mentioning that, because we are really proud of this achievement. I believe that ADOIT stands out from other EA tools because it combines power and accessibility. So unlike some platforms that are mainly for EA experts, ADOIT is designed so that both architects and non-experts across business and IT can contribute. And this is where our workspaces, which I've mentioned, are our key differentiator. So they let cross-functional teams actually collaborate on small but high-value, outcome-driven projects without requiring deep EA or Archimate expertise. And this makes EA more practical, inclusive, and aligned with real business needs. But other than that, I believe that another standout feature is the integrated AI. So ADOIT uses AI for various things. We use it to support analysis, to highlight risks, suggest improvements, and so on and so forth. But what it really does, what AI features actually do in ADOIT, is reduce manual effort. So they let you focus on what matters most and speed up the decision-making process. And they allow you to focus on strategic and value-driven work while AI features do the manual efforts, right? And beyond workspaces and ADOIT, and AI, ADOIT also excels in supporting standards such as Archimate, which I've mentioned why it can be important. And another cool thing about ADOIT and Archimate is that to make it more complex, you can actually create your own meta model. So you can still use this widely accepted standard that can help show hidden information. You can still use it, but make it much less complicated and much more personal. So for your specific needs. And yeah, I believe these are the things that make ADOIT stand out for the 5th year in a row.
Okay, thanks so much for sharing that. I mean, obviously for the tool to have been featured in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for 5 consecutive years, there must be something it's doing differently that the others on the market aren't. So thanks so much for sharing that. So I'm just gonna bring the conversation a bit closer home for our audience. You know, we don't want this to be what's the right word to use now? sort of a vague conversation
Mm-hmm.
or sort of an elusive conversation. I want to bring it closer home, right?
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to give an example from my career. So when I started off my career, the first company I worked with was ARM. ARM is a microprocessor company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember very vividly, this was years ago, I remember very vividly that, there was consent within the management team or within the team actually that
Mm-hmm.
were sold a CRM tool that we didn't need, right? So we're just sold, it's a popular tool. I'm not going to mention the name, but, the team felt that we didn't need it.
Uh-huh.
Also sold an ERP solution that the team also felt that, the team didn't need. So this is something, and the reason for that is because obviously the management team or the team felt that there was no, there were no quick wins. We're not seeing any tangible. The tool is
Mm-hmm.
just there, but so the tool is there, but 3 months down the line, 90 days down the line, 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, we're not really seeing any wins or anything that it's any impact that it's making.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that leads me on to the next question, Djurdjija.
Mm-hmm.
For an organization starting or restarting its EA journey, what practical steps would you recommend to get quick wins and both short-term and long-term impact using a tool like ADOIT?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, from EA perspective, the most important thing, as I mentioned a couple of times already, is to create um, any type of shared knowledge. We usually start with capability maps. They're a great start, really, because they show that they show to everybody what the organization does and how it does it. So make sure, I would always recommend to create one, because once you do, you can start simple, you can start small, right? You can just map out your core capabilities. And then over time, you can, of course, make this picture bigger. But why is it so important? Because when you create a capability map, you can then go even further. You can go to the operating model, we say, of each capability. And what an operating model is, I will show you this in a couple of minutes. It actually shows how the capability gets realized. So which processes are behind it, which applications support those processes, which data is used. If we can use, maybe there is some data that can be used but isn't being used. Why is that? So you can get answers to questions like questions that sound very logical to ask, but nobody's answering them, right? So if you map everything, you get to see the so the big picture and everything behind it. So I would start simple and then refine and expand over time, all the while making sure that I have mapped everything for each capability. And then I can also see how they connect. So if one application is supporting more capabilities, and if some processes are shared across capabilities, and so on and so forth. And of course, then I would suggest having a tool that supports democratizing EA. So I would make sure that I can collaborate with everybody from my organization using tools such as ADOIT and their feature such as workspaces, where I can then actually create actionable steps for the info that I've just got from this operating model and from those capability maps. Um, yeah. So, and of course, so start small, demonstrate the value behind it, and expand your scope over time. And then you can also introduce governance, standards, and advanced analytics step by step. And so by building incrementally, you can turn a few early wins into a sustainable EA practice that drives both operational efficiency and strategic transformation. So, in summary, I'd say start with capability maps to create shared understanding. Focus on business problems that deliver quick wins, such as I've mentioned, application investment planning, and then use collaborative tools to engage everybody and get valuable information from really everybody, and then connect capabilities to its corresponding IT infrastructure for actionable insights and for leverage, and then leverage visualizations to clarify this complexity that can arise in this IT infrastructure. And then, of course, iterate gradually for long-term impact.
Okay, so Djurdjija, as you've been speaking since this webinar started, I've actually been taking notes.
Mhm.
There's been a couple of aha moments for me, for myself, lots of a couple of aha moments, and also your response to this final question also, I had a couple of aha moments as well that I would love to share with the audience, right? What can happen when the EA, there's no EA in an organization, right? So recently, one of the global manufacturing companies was alleged that some of their products in a dozen countries has higher sugar levels than some of the products in other countries, right? And this is because one of the aha moments I had today is this is because there was a lack of shared common knowledge amongst the teams in all of those countries. It ties in so much into what you've said. Also in the aviation sector, where we're seeing a couple of several defects from one or two manufacturers, even in intellectual property, insurance, banking, and you name it, like every all of the sectors out there. So I really see this applying. So lots of aha moments for myself. Thank you so much for sharing this, Djurdjija. So sure, I'm sold on this. I'm sold on this personally, and I can't wait to see the demo.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this, because without actually showing you how easily it can be done, I don't believe you can get all of the benefits of EA. So I've actually prepared something. If I can start with the demo right now.
Please do. I'm all eyes.
Well, let me just share my screen shortly. And wait. So, David, you'll let me know if you see my screen already.
Okay, I'm still waiting. Yes, I can see the screen.
Yes, good. So I've mentioned a couple of times how having a shared understanding, a common knowledge across the entire organization is very important, and how a great start for this can be a capability map. And this is exactly what you can see on my screen right here. So I've also mentioned how you can organize those capabilities across, let's say, value streams. So here, in this particular example, we have an airport capability map. And I decided to show you this capability map because this example, an airport example in particular, because I believe airport is something that we are all familiar with, right? And with their capabilities. We all know what an airport does.
I'm so sorry. Is there a way you can maximize the screen just for the audience?
Yeah, sorry. I hope you can see it
better now. Yeah, we can actually see the wordings now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you'll see that we have value streams across, so for the entire, all the airport processes, basically. So we have arrival and ground handling, passenger handling and terminal operations, aircraft services and turnaround, air traffic management and navigation, and departure and takeoff. And across all those value streams, we have various capabilities. So we can see that we have passenger processes, terminal management, and baggage management in passenger handling and terminal operations, whereas in departure and takeoff, we have a whole other set of capabilities being boarding processes, management, load planning, and cargo handling, pre-flight checks, and procedures. And what this does is, imagine, so not everybody is involved in the same part of the organization, right? So some people take care of arrival and ground handling, the others take care of departure and takeoff. But this capability map enables us to see what happens across the organization. And think about it, if we have strategic goals that come from leadership, we can then also understand why some things need to happen. So if our goal is more related to arrival and ground handling services, maybe we want to improve in this area, then everybody will know, okay, this is why we're focusing on this. And this is why we are focusing on safety and security capability, for instance. So having this type of shared knowledge is a start. But I've also mentioned that this is just the beginning of the EA practice. So what you can still do is deep dive into each of those capabilities and see how they are realized. So What are the processes behind it, applications, technology, and so on and so forth. And I've mentioned that we call this an operating model. You can call it whatever you like, of course, but I linked it here. So if we want to see how, so we know that we are able to do passenger processing, right? Because we're an airport. But how do we actually do this? How does this capability get realized? I prepared here an operating model of this capability. Give me a second. And this is diving deeper. So operating model lets you dive deeper and understand all the details behind one capability. So you can see here that we have various processes in place in order for passenger processing capability to get realized. So we have a check-in process, we have security screening, we have immigration and customs, we have boarding. And all of these processes have their own people who are responsible for them, right? So the check-in processes depend highly on check-in staff. The security screening depends on security personnel, and so on and so forth. And of course, each of those processes are supported with applications nowadays. So nowadays we have check-in applications, we have security and screening applications, immigration and custom application, boarding application. And all of these applications, in order for them to work successfully, they use some data and data sources, right? So you can see how they are linked here. Not only that, each of those applications actually depend on system software and technology or equipment. And so here you can see the check-in application depends on check-in counters, self-service kiosks, then security screening and application depends on an X-ray machine, and so on and so forth. And so what this gives us is, let's say that we realize that the check-in process is very slow or is not working at all, or so that the passenger processing capability is something that we need to improve. We dive deeper and see, okay, we have a check-in process that helps realize it. The check-in process depends on the check-in application, and this might be the problem. The check-in application might be a cause of the check-in process being very slow or not happening at all, which in terms, of course, affects our capability, and we are not able to do our job right. So what we can do here is dive even deeper and check if the check-in application really is the problem. So I've met here the model. So going even deeper to the check-in application, seeing what it depends on, we can see various interfaces that this application actually relies on. And here in this analysis, we can see that the passenger interface actually has been assessed as insecure because of insecure APIs or endpoints. Also, we can see that the check-in application uses outdated technology versions. So here we found the root cause. We found why, for instance, our capability is not getting realized as we want it to be, why it's not working the way it should be. So we can see the entire infrastructure behind it. We can see the processes, the people, the data. Another issue might be that we don't have enough data, or the data is irrelevant or inconsistent or whatever. So there may be various problems, and enterprise architecture helps us uncover these problems, see where the actual problem is. So this brings us from saying, hey, we need to invest more into passenger processes capability. This is very broad, right? We don't know where exactly to invest, what we should do. This actually tells us, okay, the check-in application helps realize the check-in process, which helps realize the capability. This is our problem. We need to invest in this application. How do we invest? Well, we need to take care of the APIs, or we need to take care of the, we need to update an interface or an application, where we have to see if it relies on outdated technology, and so on and so forth. Sorry, David, did you want to ask something?
I just wanted to chip in something. So, so while I was asking the questions, this demo so far has really substantiated a lot of the things a lot of the questions that you answered. When you say a common knowledge, shared knowledge. So what this shows is it shows everything in one place, right? The requirements are there, the business processes, every single thing is one place, the data, and then you can drill in as well. You can drill in to see it starts from the high level overview, can drill into everything is in one place. Yeah,
exactly. Now, yes.
Now, what I see this doing is ensuring process consistency as well. That is something that I can see from the demo so far. It ensures process consistency and also ensures that projects meet their objectives. Just wanted to mention that.
Exactly. What this overview also shows us is, as you mentioned, David, the requirements that need to be done in order to improve this application. And this brings me to the part where I said that we want to democratize EA and make it for everybody. And how we do this is, well, you might be wondering who actually defined these requirements. And the answer here is everybody can really do it. And how they can do it is with the help of our mentioned workspaces. So if I switch here to workspaces, this brings me to various templates. So I said that workspaces each fulfill one particular business need, such as application investment planning or road mapping services. What we've seen in this example was an application, were the requirements that were defined for an application. And how this was done is with the help of this template. And now I'm going to show you in a couple of steps how and why everybody can and should contribute to EA. So if I use the application-based roadmap, click on OK, I can give it a name. I will call it a demo just for these purposes. Here, you can add any of your colleagues that you want to collaborate with. So you can invite them to your workspace. The next step is choosing the element type that you want to create a roadmap for. So now we want to plan the requirements for our application components. I will choose the application component. And here you can choose the prioritization method. And we can either choose from the value versus effort method or the Eisenhower matrix. Let's stick with the value versus effort method and create our workspace. And now here you can see why and how this is really easy for everybody to use. So the service is guided, first of all. So you have a couple of steps that you need to take. You don't need any EA knowledge whatsoever. You just know that you want to create requirements for a certain application or for a group of applications. For now, we've analyzed the check-in application, which is why I'm going to add it to the right side here. And if I click on next, this brings me to the second step. And here I can define those requirements. So I've noticed from the work that somebody did, or maybe I did it myself, that my interfaces are outdated or that I have similar issues. So I know what I need to do. And this is where I will define them. Now I can do this either on my own if I already know what the requirements are, or with my colleagues that I've invited to collaborate with me in this workspace, or I can do this with the help of AI. This is where the manual effort really becomes minimal and we allow AI to do our job for us. So if I click on AI suggestions, I will give it a minute. What AI does is it analyzes our entire repository. A repository is a single source of truth. So every object that we've just seen in the previous demo section, every object, every capability, every application, process, people, even data, everything that you've just seen is stored in one repository. I can show it to you later. And what AI does is it has a look, so to say. It scans the entire repository and makes decisions based on your repository. So it has seen the assessment of the application interface. It has seen that, for example, check-in application needs some steps to be done in order for it to function properly. What it will do is suggest the requirements that make sense based on the repository content that you've stored, you and your colleagues. So for instance, it suggested that we enhance user interface design. It gives you a background why. A clear and intuitive user interface reduces operational errors and enhances the efficiency of the check-in process. And you can choose whether you want to keep this requirement or not. If you want to keep it, you can simply tick it. And of course, you can rework it as you see fit. Another requirement would be implement real-time system monitoring, integrate with baggage handling systems, because it's seen that this is also something that we want to focus on. Strengthen data privacy measures, upgrade data management systems. Let's say we choose a couple, click on add, and right here, I have all the requirements that need to happen in order for me to improve my application. The next step is to prioritize my requirements. Of course, not everything is equally important. So I need to think about what are my quick wins, what are my big projects, what are the fill-ins, what are the time wasters, and how I decide on this is, as you can see, we have this value versus effort matrix. So if something is considered of great value and great effort, it will fall under the big projects. So let's say strengthen data privacy measures. is big projects. Enhanced user interface design is quick win. Upgrade data management system is, let's say, a fill-in. Now I'm just doing this for the demo purposes, but you would have your own ways, of course, of prioritizing the requirements. If you click on next, you can then plan your requirements for an appropriate time period. So here you can see the quarters of year 2025. So if something is a big project, I would probably put it somewhere where I have enough time for it. So I'd probably put it in, I don't know, Q2 of 2026. If something is a quick win, I will make sure to do this now in Q4. And if something is a fill-in, I can do it whenever, but let's say Q1. The last step of the service would be to actually track the progress of your requirements. So this is done because nothing is static in this world, right? In this environment, everything changes all the time. So I would need to know if something's changed, and therefore I need to plan my requirements differently. Maybe I want to upgrade the data management system before, maybe it's become more urgent. And then I can track requirements and say, okay, enhanced user interface design, we started with this. This is on track, we'll make it. But let's say the fill-ins that we've just prioritized differently, maybe this requires caution. Maybe we need to put more effort in this. And then everybody who collaborates in this workspace can see what requires our immediate effort, what we can still wait for. Let's say the strengthened data privacy measures, we still didn't start with that. So here we have an overview on everything that needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and how what progress looks like at this point in time. And you can always go back to this workspace and, of course, adapt the requirements according to your needs. And in summary, you would then always have an overview. So these are the requirements for my check-in application. I might have had more applications here, so they would show up under the check-in application and their requirements under the table, respectively. I can also switch to tabular view here, so that it's easier maybe for me to see. I can share my results with whomever I see fit by copying the link or sending the email. And everybody that contributes in this workspace would get an email. They would get notified via email in case anything changes, in case they are invited for some action or anything similar. Now, I understand we're running out of time. Another thing that I wanted to show that was, I think, very important is if we get back to design and document, and go back to our capability map, you'll see that I've also linked the application portfolio analysis. So I may not only want to see applications supporting passenger processing, I may want to see the entire application portfolio in my repository. And wow. I could see it here. And not just see it, this doesn't really bring much, right? All the applications that I have stored. But what brings much is all these views. For instance, I have applications per capability. I'll increase it. So here I can still see my value streams and capabilities visualized a bit differently because now we're also visualizing the applications that are supporting capabilities. So here we've analyzed check-in application, but we also have boarding applications, immigration, custom applications, backstop, and so on and so forth. Another cool thing that we can do here is if we enable coloring, we'll see that color coding enables us to see which of those applications are evaluated as excellent when it comes to business fitness, which of them are doing bad, which of them are doing good, and not only for business fitness, but for various attributes right here. So this enables us to see right away which application needs our focus, needs our effort. So stick with me here. I want to show you that we can also see the end-of-life applications. So here with the help of our color coding, we can see that baggage handling system, immigration and custom applications, security screening applications are nearing their end of life, which is something that will become important because it will influence the processes, which in turn will influence the capabilities. And we have various other representations as well, like application lifecycle, application and provided interfaces support, so which applications depend on which interfaces, application component roadmap, and so on and so forth. And one more thing, I'm sorry that it took so much time, but you see here that the business fitness has been evaluated somehow. How this was done is actually also in workspaces. with the help of our application investment planning. And I will show you, I've prepared it here. So all of our applications, not all of them, but some of our applications have been assessed with the help of a simple survey. So somebody, me or my colleagues who don't have to be EA experts, have answered the survey so currently we have 19 questions that we can answer. And then ADOIT actually tells you what you should do with those applications. If you should tolerate them, invest in them, eliminate or migrate any of the application based on the score of your business fitness and IT fitness that can be evaluated by really everybody. With this, also important thing to mention, this questionnaire that I've just shown, it's completely customizable. So you don't have to answer the questions that somebody else thought of. You can answer your own questions and find out what answers are relevant to you, and then let ADOIT do the rest of the job. So yeah, this will be it from the tool demo. I think I'm still in time. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thanks so much, Djurdjija, for that. This is very comprehensive demo. Even as someone that wanted to set up as a mom and someone that wanted to set up an e-commerce store myself, I still see, even as a mom and pop shop with just myself, I still see a need for enterprise architecture. So that's very helpful. So thank you so much for that. Yeah. So now we're going to take questions from the audience. I see there's one question that is in, about if enterprise EA ever gets audited. Right. So does EA ever get audited? So we're going to be taking questions from the audience now. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to, you can say it live, or you can, we can take the questions now.
So I can see the comments. Just let me. Does EA ever get audited? Yeah. So then once you establish your EA, you can, of course, proceed with auditing and upgrading it in any way that you see fit, in any way that you need it to. What is EA? Enterprise architecture. Got it. Okay. Could AI replace a lot of architecture? As I said, AI can mostly replace the manual effort that EA requires. So I've shown you some of the examples. So it can define your requirements for you. It can define your actionable next steps. It can also determine, you've seen the applications that are nearing their end of life. This can also be done by AI. So AI can look up the end of standard support by vendors and just implement it into your repository. So in this way, it can replace it. Another cool thing about AI, which we've introduced with ADOIT 18, is the MCP, where you can ask your questions in a natural tone. You can ask your questions as you would ask me, and then it would give you answers with the information that it got from ADOIT. It would provide you clear answers. Okay. I see that. Okay. Yeah, I think we currently use Adonis for processes without ADOIT. Would it be possible to start small with Adonis and migrate to ADOIT at a later point in time when we have reached a higher maturity stage? Yes, of course, definitely. As a matter of fact, we've just recently, a week ago, had a webinar where we explained how Adonis and ADOIT can work together. So I'll invite you here to have a look at it. You can find it on the BOC Group's website under resources. And actually, we'll have another webinar on the same topic, just starting from ADOIT perspective and then moving on to Adonis processes next Wednesday. So I invite you to come to our webinar as well. But definitely, yes, you can use Adonis for processes, and then you can see with the help of process simulation and process mining where things go wrong. And then you can go to ADOIT and analyze why it went wrong. This is possible because Adonis and ADOIT are linked to each other. So all the data that you have in Adonis can be replicated to ADOIT, where it can then further be analyzed and where you can then draw conclusions and implement them back to Adonis. So yeah, this is definitely something that we find very useful. And again, Stephen, I would invite you to have a look at our most recent webinar. If you can't find it on the website, please feel free to reach out either to David or to myself, and I will make sure to send you the recording of a webinar. Yeah, I think those were all the questions. David, have I missed any?
I think there was one on the. What about ADOIT for the banking sector? There was a one about what about ADOIT for the banking sector? I saw that.
Yes, I mean, I don't see the question, but ADOIT can definitely be used in banking sector. As a matter of fact, we have a couple of clients from the bank industries. So yes, there are also a couple of webinars where we have used this fictional ADO Money Bank example, where we explain how a bank would do their own enterprise architecture and all the use cases that are actually applied to banking sectors. So again, I would invite you to have a look at our webinars, because you will see much of the useful information. I think we also have some blog posts on these topics, but yes, definitely, ADOIT can be applied to banking sectors as well.
And just also wanted to highlight, as someone that's worked in the banking sector previously, from what I've seen today, ADOIT can be used. I can confidently say that ADOIT can be used across retail banking, fintech, merchant banking, investment banking, any type of banking.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
So that will be all from me today. I don't have anything else to say other than say, wow, big wow.
Thank you. I would like to thank everybody for the attention from my side, and I'd like to invite you to have a look at the BOC's most recent and not so recent resources on our BOC website. I think you'll find much of valuable content there. And of course, please feel free to contact me or any of my colleagues. We'll be happy to guide you through a personalized demo or answer any of the questions you might have. And thank you, David, for inviting me and for your questions and summing up everything that I've said. That's really been useful.
Always a pleasure, always. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.